When my editors asked me to do this list, I thought, oh, that'll be easy. F*** off. No, it wasn't. I'm not entirely sure why I've done this, but I've rewritten this list 8 separate times, and I am not kidding. See, my actual, quote, favourite films change on the hour depending on my mood, so essentially what this list has become is me trying to communicate some sort of total picture or personal statement of who I am as a moviegoer and in some ways as a person via a top 10 list, and that's really difficult. Half of me doesn't want to misrepresent myself, and the other half thinks I'm probably taking this a bit too seriously. Actually, hang on, wait a minute. Okay, I just went away and redid the whole list. Let's just get this on tape, for God's sake. I have 6 honourable mentions, because shut up, this is my list. Aladdin, Goodfellas, Back to the Future, Leon, Jaws, and Return of the Jedi all spent time on this list, but were bumped at the last minute, and I'm sorry, stop clicking dislike! I'm Blampied from Whatculture.com, and here are my 10 favourite films of all time. Number 10, The Princess Bride. The best thing about The Princess Bride is that you can watch it at 2 different stages in your life and love it for 2 completely different reasons. When you're young, you feel, oh wow, this film's so exciting and cool, a giant, and oh wow, sword fights and flames from the ground. And when you're older, you realise, oh wow, this film's sarcastic as and it's amazing. It's just crammed full of brilliant moments that somehow paradoxically are effective as earnest statements by earnest characters in a straight-up fantasy film, and also as knowing parodic winks to the crowd. In one scene you have an overdeveloped sense of vengeance and I want my father back, you son of a bitch. To make both of those tones not only satisfying but also complementary of each other is insanely difficult, making Princess Bride one of the most accomplished fantasy films ever made. Number 9, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. I've got a bit of a love-hate relationship with Charlie Kaufman, and Anomalisa in adaptation left me a bit cold. Being John Malkovich and especially Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind are total f***ing masterpieces of cinematic structure and esoteric character work. I like me some quirky weird. For me, Sunshine is such a treasure because when I first saw it, it completely opened my eyes to what filmmaking was capable of. Some of the sequences that Kaufman and Jones put together, especially when Joel starts sprinting through his childhood, are absolutely dizzying, hitting the emotional sweet spot of taking a universally recognizable event, a traumatic breakup, and exploring it in ways that feel authentic, yet utterly unpredictable. Number 8, Reservoir Dogs. Unless you've experienced it yourself, I just cannot get over how monumental it feels to be a teenager and to watch Reservoir Dogs for the first time. The dialogue, the freeform structure, the hyper-cool sense of swagger, the soundtrack, the claustrophobic sense of dread is a sheer lightning bolt of a movie, and in my opinion, better than Pulp Fiction. Come at me, prison fight me, I dare you. There's not much in it, and of course it comes down to personal taste, but Reservoir Dogs will always be my favourite Tarantino, even if it did lead to every single filmmaker of the 90s trying to ape his style to truly cringe effect. Number 7, Casablanca. You know, sometimes people tell you, mate, you need to watch this, it's great. And you're like, okay, I'll try. And they're like, don't try, mate, you need to watch it. You say, okay, and then they say, I'm coming round tonight and we're going to watch it. And you say, how do you know where I live? We've only just met. And then there's some stuff with the police, and then you do watch it and it's good, but ultimately it doesn't live up to the huge amount of hype that people have put on it. Well, Casablanca is as good as everyone says it is. Everything about the film is beautiful. It's beautifully written, beautifully shot, and beautifully acted. It's heralded by the Writers Guild of America as the greatest screenplay of all time, and it's hard to argue with that. It's just so artfully constructed in terms of stakes, character choices, emotional payoffs. It's also got the greatest put down in cinema history. One character asks Rick, "You despise me, don't you?" He responds, "If I gave you any thought, I probably would." That is amazing. Number 6, Whiplash. Yep, one of my favourite films of all time is a film about drumming. I mean, of course it isn't about drumming any more than Sideways is a film about wine. It features drumming, but it's about obsession, revenge, art, what a person should be willing to sacrifice to be considered great. There's just nothing wrong with it. It's so lean. Every single scene is compelling or destructive or unsettling or born of psychological violence. J.K. Simmons is breathtaking as Mr. Miyagi on steroids. It's genuinely one of the best supporting turns in the history of all the films that have been made by people. Also, that ending. I won't spoil it for you, but somehow they turn something that out of context is a really annoying thing into something that manages to be triumphant, vengeful, quasi-romantic, and tragic. Everyone watch Whiplash. Number 5, Monty Python and the Holy Grail. And speaking of endings, talk about a kick to the dick. Holy Grail is the best of the Monty Python films. You f***ing heard me. Piss off Life of Brian. You haven't got shit on the night to say knee. Everyone has those comedies that help to shape their sense of humor, be it Airplane or White Chicks or Frasier or Simpsons or Friends. There are seminal jokes that just burrow into you, completely change the way you see comedy. Especially for me as a writer, in terms of opening my eyes to surreal concepts and unique ways of twisting genres, Holy Grail was a giant influence. It's just bursting at the seams with imaginative scene conceits, comedy characters, and iconic lines. Your arm's off? No, it isn't. Well, what's that then? I've had worse. That's just f***ing... Number 4, Die Hard and The Raid. Okay, fine, this is technically a top 11, but do not make me choose between Die Hard and The Raid. I can't, and I won't. They are masterclasses of the policeman killing loads of dudes in a tall building subgenre, and that is a very good subgenre. Both films are completely different, but in 20 years, they will both still be regarded as blood-soaked milestone achievements in action movie history. Die Hard for creating the everyman hero in the high-concept single-location blockbuster, and The Raid for being a beautiful hybrid of Eastern martial arts and Western production values. Both films introduced the mainstream world to action heroes they're not going to forget in the form of Bruce Willis and Iko Uwais, and both are my number 4, so deal with it. Number 3, Inside Out. Pixar is amazing. Genuinely, you can make a top 10 list out of their filmography alone, but if I had to pick a favourite, Inside Out squeaks by The Incredibles by mere inches. Not only is it hugely funny, sad, with huge stakes that are still personal and relatable, not only does it have all the joy of a Pixar film, literally in this case as a character actually called Joy, but it's for real an important movie. Kids need to know it's okay to be sad. They need to know that you can't try and destroy negative emotions, but work through them, confront them. And as wanky as it sounds, that kind of stuff is as fundamental to children's learning as mathematics. I'm not joking, Inside Out should be played in schools across the world. It's that good. Number 2, Serenity. The odd one out. The one on the list that everyone will be like, why the f*** is that so high? Because Serenity's goddamn brilliant. I've probably watched it about 20 times and I still love it. Why? Because I love Firefly, and crucially, I was a giant Firefly fan before I saw the film. If you've only seen Serenity, then I genuinely feel bad for you, because watching that film, having devoured the show, being fully invested in the characters and the writing style and the world, makes Serenity a sublime experience that you just can't replicate by watching the show afterwards. Genuinely, the last third where people die, it's the tensest and most invested I think I've ever been in a cinema, and it's just the perfect Goram ending to Firefly on screen. And number 1, The Shawshank Redemption. I rewrote this list many times, but the one thing that never changed was my number 1. It's the best film ever made. It is. It's just so charming. The wonderful uplifting score, to the screenplay that's just a perfect combination of arch and profound, to the huge cast of characters brilliantly played, all who experience triumph and tragedy. If you haven't seen it, I can say no more than, you need to. No film has ever affected me as much as The Shawshank Redemption, in my opinion, which is the correct one. It's easily the greatest film of all time. Get busy living or get busy dying. That's goddamn right. And that's our list. What are your 10 favourite films of all time? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter here. I'm Blampied from Whatculture.com, and I'll see you soon.